Hello guys, Namaste. So this is your Mahisar logging in, and so today we are going to discuss a very important chapter, a small chapter, and we are going to discuss synopsis of inverse trigonometric functions. Fine. So we have studied trigonometry in detail in your first POC. So first POC CET classes also. So trigonometry, we have discussed so many formulae, shortcuts and everything. So this is just continued part of trigonometry, inverse trigonometric functions. And by the way, before we proceed, where this inverse trigonometry is actually used? See, inverse trigonometry is actually used, the basic application is the mathematical application. It is used in mathematics as a subject, as a whole. So it can be trigonometric series, it can be calculus, or it can be 3D geometry. Everywhere, wherever trigonometry is used, inverse trigonometry is also used. So that is a mathematical usage. Next, it has engineering applications. So whenever we talk about software, any software development, any algorithm, any programming, so any programming that requires, the mathematics. So there we have trigonometry and inverse trigonometry. Definitely they are used. Okay. In 3D geometry, it is used in 3D geometry. So in graphics, computer graphics also this is used. Okay, and it has other engineering applications in archaeology, in civil engineering, in designing. Okay, in designing, it can be graphical designing or computer aided designing. We call it as CAD. Okay, so it has various engineering applications, and it has astronomical applications also. So whenever we study, the distance between two planets, distance between a planet and a star, and so on. So in studying in the study of astronomy, trigonometry is definitely used. Okay. In day-to-day applications, we can say trigonometry is used in designing the staircase, in designing the slopes. Okay, so we use the trigonometry. So wherever trigonometry is used, inverse trigonometry is definitely used. So what is the meaning of inverse trigonometry? So what is the meaning of inverse trigonometry? This we have to understand, alva. So meaning of inverse function ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ರೆ meaning of inverse trigonometry ಕೂಡ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ. Meaning of function ನಾನು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ. Meaning of a function ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? Whenever there is an input A, it is giving an input B. This is called as function, right? So A is the input value and B is what comes out. So what goes in is called as domain. Input value is called as domain. So domain is A and the range is B. ಇದು ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವೇನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ? F of A is equal to B ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಅಲ್ವಾ? This is how we define a function. All the elements of the domain must be mapped and every element must have single image. Fine. Inverse function ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? The ulta. So coming towards this side from the codomain set B. So this will be coming from this side and mapping here. So this is your inverse function. So that means F inverse of X, we define it as F inverse of B is equal to. So inverse function represents the pre-image. The pre-image. Pre-image ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇದು. B ಅನ್ನೋದು image ಆದರೆ A ಅನ್ನೋದು ಅದರ pre-image. So this is called as inverse function. Same thing is applied to inverse trigonometric function. You see, we have sine 30 degree is equal to 1 by 2, right? So f of 30 degree is equal to 1 by 2, we call it. Same thing, we can write it as, so 30 degree is equal to sine inverse of 1 by 2. When it goes this side, so we normally think it as 1 by sine. It is not 1 by sine, it is sine inverse of 1 by 2. So that means sine inverse of 1 by 2 is equal to 30 degree. Understand this? So that means whenever we have sine theta is equal to some value x, right? The x is a real number. So this implies sine inverse of x is equal to theta. Okay, where this x is the real number and theta is the angle. So basically, sine inverse of a value or a real number is equal to an angle. Okay, this is how we can remember your inverse trigonometry. Or simply speaking, sine inverse of x is equal to theta. Sine inverse of x is equal to theta. So that is how we understand the inverse trigonometry. Okay. Hope this is clear. So that means whenever we have 30 degree, so it is giving me 1 by 2, where f of x equal to sine theta, right? So same thing, whenever we are speaking of f of x is equal to sine inverse of x, so we are speaking about 1 by 2 giving me 30 degree or pi by 6. Okay, so this is how a inverse function is defined. Okay, hope you got the fair idea. So now let me go to the next slide. So this we have discussed. So sine inverse of x equal to theta, where x is the domain value, the input value, theta is the result range value. What goes in is the domain, which is x. What comes out, the result, the product, is your theta. Domain means value of x, range means value of f of x. Fine. Now some properties. So we will discuss some properties. When all the values are positive, what will happen? Sine inverse of plus x and it is nothing but plus sine inverse of x. Idannella barಕೊಳ್ಳಿ important idu. Cos inverse of plus x is plus cos inverse of x, and this is plus tan inverse of x, because it falls in the first quadrant. So whenever the values are positive, it falls in the first quadrant, so they are all positive. Okay, this way. When they are negative, here comes the problem. I tell you, sine inverse of negative is falling in second, fourth and first. So when it is negative, it is fourth quadrant. When it is positive, first quadrant. So sine inverse of negative is falling in fourth quadrant. Cos inverse of negative is falling in second quadrant, remember. And also secant inverse. Tan inverse of negative is falling in fourth quadrant, remember this. So cos inverse of negative is nothing but minus sine inverse of x. So it is falling in fourth quadrant, by the way. When it is positive, it is first quadrant. Okay, that is default. Cos inverse of minus x, second quadrant. So we call it as pi minus cos inverse of x. Remember, you have to remember this. Pi, because this is pi minus cos inverse of x. And this fellow, this is negative cos tan inverse of x. Because we are going in the opposite direction. So this is the, the what do you say, positive direction of the x-axis. So negative direction of the x-axis. We are coming this way. So this is the negative direction of the x-axis, clockwise. So we call it as minus theta. And this is the positive direction of the x-axis. Call it as plus theta. Okay. So this is the negative direction of the x-axis. So it is minus theta, minus tan inverse of x. Write it properly. Fair enough, students? Okay. Few more things I want to add here. Cot inverse of minus x, very important. So cot inverse of minus x is falling in which quadrant? It is falling in second quadrant. That is a speciality. It is not falling in fourth quadrant. It is falling in second quadrant, because we have to define both minus infinity and plus infinity, which is possible only in second quadrant. So that is why I am putting here. Okay. So which will give me pi minus cot inverse of x. So that cot inverse of minus x must be bijective. So it is bijective only when it is in second quadrant. If you put it in fourth, it will not become bijective. So that is the reason we are putting it in second quadrant. Cot inverse. Okay, domain range table, we'll go there. We'll go to the domain and range table. So what is the meaning of domain and range table? You see here, whenever we have sine inverse of x is equal to theta, x belongs to -1 to +1. You know this. That is the maximum and minimum value of sine theta, -1 to +1. And theta can be any real value. It can be any real angle. ಯಾವುದಾದರೂ real number ಆಗಿದ್ರೂ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. Real number ಅಂದ್ರೆ basically it can take any value. We have no issues. So this is your sine inverse of x. So what about cos inverse of x, sir? Same thing. X belongs to -1 to 1. And y belongs to, and theta belongs to any real angle. All real numbers. Fine. So these two is clear. Sin inverse of x and cos inverse of x. I'll come to the table later. Next, few more things. What about tan inverse of x? So x belongs to all real numbers, -infinity to infinity, right? And theta belongs to -π/2 to π/2. Theta belongs to -π/2 to π/2. Oh, I want to talk about this here. So -π/2 because it is in fourth and first quadrant, right? Same thing here also. I told for trigonometry. Here, range value. Let me be very specific here. Okay, I forgot to tell you. Listen to this carefully. So this is the domain. Now we'll talk about the range. Okay, please understand this carefully. I was in the trigonometry mode. So this is the domain. What is the range? Range will be, so cos inverse of x is in first and second quadrant, as I told you. So this is 0 to π. And here range will be -π/2 to π/2. ಯಾವ್ದಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಫೋರ್ತ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ವಾಡ್ರೆಂಟ್. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ ಇದು? So this I deliberately wanted to re-verify because I told all real values. All real values is for trigonometry, sin theta and cos theta, not for inverse trigonometry. In inverse trigonometry, the range value is 0 to π. This is -π/2 to π/2. So please make this correction. Okay, this is over. So this is the domain. This is the range. Tan inverse of x. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ cot inverse of x ನೋಡೋಣ. Cot inverse of x ಗೆ ಡೊಮೇನ್ ಬಂದು x belongs to all real numbers and range belongs to 0 to 5. Open bracket. 0 to 5. That is your cot inverse of x range. Similarly, secant inverse of x ಬರೀತೀನಿ. Domain is x belongs to -infinity to -1, union of 1 to infinity. Range is this is in second quadrant, 0 to π -π/2, because it will become 1 by cos 90 will become 0, it will become infinity. So 0 to π -π/2. Similarly, last cosecant inverse of x. Domain is same as secant inverse of x. So the domain and the range will be, so this is fourth and first quadrant, right? So this will be -π/2 to π/2. It will take the values. It is a closed bracket because it is valid. -1 plus 1 it will give -0 because it will become 1 by sin 0. Sin 0 is 0. 1 by 0 infinity. So we are avoiding 0. Okay, these are the values. Just make a note of these, guys. This is important. Okay, I'll show you the table also. If I just show you the table, the understanding will not be there. So I have written them deliberately. Note put. Tan inverse of x domain range ಈ ಮಿಕ್ಕಿದ ಮೂರು cot inverse, secant inverse, cosecant inverse. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ದಿದ್ದೀನಿ ನೋಡಿ, ಇದನ್ನು ಬರ್ದಿದ್ದೀನಿ. cos inverse ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಕ್ವಾಡ್ರೆಂಟ್, sin inverse ಫೋರ್ತ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ವಾಡ್ರೆಂಟ್ ರೇಂಜ್. ಓಕೆ, ಇದು ಟೇಬಲ್. I have drawn the table for your reference. Same thing what I explained is here. Alva? Sin inverse 4 to first, tan inverse 4 to first, cosecant inverse 4 to first minus 0. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು 1 by sin 0 ಆಗಿ ಇನ್ಫಿನಿಟಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ cos inverse ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್, secant inverse ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್. ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಷನ್ ಯಾವುದಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ cot inverse ಕೂಡ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್. Okay, some formula I'll give you, though this formula is not there, it was not there, but it is better you remember. Please recall tan of a plus b. Please recall tan of a plus b. This was there for your syllabus, right? So what is tan of a plus b? Tan a plus tan b divided by 1 minus tan a tan b. First PU trigonometry formula. ಅದೇ ಫಾರ್ಮುಲಾ ಇಲ್ಲೂ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ tan ಇನ್ವರ್ಸ್ x ಪ್ಲಸ್ y ಸೇಮ್ ಇದೆ, x ಪ್ಲಸ್ y ಡಿವೈಡೆಡ್ ಬೈ 1 ಮೈನಸ್ xy ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಓಕೆ, ಮೇಕ್ ಎ ನೋಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿಸ್. ಇದು ಕೂಡ tan ಆಫ್ a ಮೈನಸ್ b ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತೇ ಇದೆ. ರೆಟಾರಿಕ್, ಫಸ್ಟ್ PU ರೆಟಾರಿಕ್ ರಿಪಿಟೇಷನ್. ಸೊ tan a minus tan b 1 plus tan a, ಏನಾಯ್ತು ಸರ್ ಇದು? tan inverse of x minus y 1 plus xy ಮೂರು ಅಲ್ವಾ? I've given one example. Okay, so this example will give you more clarity to understand the subject. If tan inverse of x equal to 4 by 5, find the other trigonometric ratios. 4 by 5 ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ವಾಡ್ರೆಂಟ್, ಅದು ಗೊತ್ತೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮಗೆ. ಸೊ 4 by 5 ಇದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಇದು ನೋಡಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಲೆಟ್ sin inverse of x equal to some theta, because that is an angle. This implies sin theta is equal to ಇಲ್ಲಿ sin inverse of x is equal to 4 by 5 ಅಲ್ಲ. If sin inverse of 4 by 5 is equal to theta, this must be the correct answer. Okay, sin inverse of 4 by 5 is equal to theta. Find other trigonometric functions. In terms of theta. So ಅವಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? So sin inverse of x equal to theta, sin theta is equal to x ಅಂತ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So I can write let me take that as the example. Sin inverse of 4 by 5 is equal to theta. So sin theta will be equal to x. So sin theta will be equal to 4 by 5. Nodi. Sin theta will be equal to 4 by 5. So 4 by 5, this will be theta, and this is nothing but 3. Right? So tan theta is 4 by 3, cos theta is 3 by 5. Okay, ready? Tan theta is equal to 4 by 5, and I can write the same theta as tan inverse of 4 by 5. So why I gave this example, I just want to show you tan inverse of 4 by 5 and sine inverse of 4 by 5 are same. They are both same because they are equal to theta. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ cos theta is 3 by 5. Theta is cos inverse of 4 by 3 by 5, which is also same as this. That I wanted to show. That's why I brought this example. Okay, ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. This value and this value are same because they represent the same theta. Fine. Next, few important principal values. Principal values means basic values. Tan inverse of negative. So whenever we get tan inverse of negative, what is the condition? Minus tan inverse of 1, which is minus pi by 4. Alva. Cot inverse of minus 1. So this goes to the second quadrant. Pi minus cot inverse of 1. Pi minus pi by 4. 3 pi by 4. Come on, please. Second quadrant. Sine inverse of minus 1. Fourth quadrant. Minus sine inverse of 1. Minus pi by 2. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? Cos inverse of minus 1. Second quadrant ಹೋಗಬೇಕು. Pi minus cos inverse of 1. So pi minus 0. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ cos 0 ಅಂದ್ರೆ 1 ಬರುತ್ತೆ. So the answer is pi. Cos pi minus 1. Cos pi minus 1. ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಲಿಂಕ್ ಇದೆ. Cos pi is minus 1. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಬನ್ನಿ. ನೀವೇ ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಡಿ. Cos inverse of minus half will be pi minus cos inverse of half. So half ಯಾವಾಗ ಬರುತ್ತದೋ 60 ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ವಾ? 60 ಡಿಗ್ರಿ. Pi minus pi by 3. So 2 pi by 3. Okay. Sine inverse of minus half is minus sine inverse of half, which is minus pi by 6. ಇದು sine inverse of minus root 3 by 2. Minus sine inverse of root 3 by 2, which is minus 60 degree minus pi by 3. Cos inverse of minus root 3 by 2. Pi minus cos inverse of root 3 by 2. Pi minus 30 degree. Pi minus pi by 6. Which is pi by 6. Cos inverse of root 3 by 2 andre 30 degree. Cos 30 is root 3 by 2. Okay. So these are the basic problems. These problems will help you in solving the difficult problems. This we discussed anyway, right? Okay, guys, that is about it. So this is a very small synopsis wherein you have to remember the domain range table. Okay, and the quadrants. Sine inverse of negative idaga fourth, cos inverse negative second, tan inverse negative fourth, secant inverse negative second, cosecant inverse negative fourth, cot inverse negative second. Exception. ಕಾರಣ ಏನಪ್ಪಾ ಅಂದ್ರೆ to make the cot inverse function bijective, you are giving it in second part. Okay, students, chalo, see you. Namaste.